DocTalk is brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. We're going to have a great show today. We're going to talk about the Carcass Transfer. So we're really going to talk about growth and physiology of cattle as they grow in the feedlot. And we'll discuss what happens at the end of the feeding period, and it's so important that we feed them to the right endpoint. Stay tuned.
Join Ag AM in Kansas, everyone, Monday through Friday mornings on local stations throughout the state of Kansas, and every day on your favorite social media. Monday kicks off with Dr. Dan Thompson on DocTalk, as he's joined by leading veterinarians and nutritionists in food animal production. They discuss current production challenges and tips on how to deal and prepare for those challenges. Tuesdays on Farm Factor, it is our friends here at KFRM Radio with interviews from top experts in agriculture. Wednesday, it is a little of Kansas history with Deb Goodrich on Around Kansas. Thursday, Britton Rucker brings us Ag Etc. This day is filled with agricultural research and ag happenings around the Midwest, including our new Young Leaders in Ag segment. We end the week with Authentic Ag and updates from your local checkoff programs. Make sure to check your local listings or like us on Facebook and Twitter at Ag AM in Kansas and on YouTube at Farming Unlimited TV, so you never miss an episode. Thanks for watching.
I'm Bob Swartz, and I've devoted the last 43 years to helping Kansans reach their retirement goals and to protect the family farm. At Bob Swartz Financial, we believe everyone should be able to live the retirement they've always dreamed of. Our team of professionals can help you create an efficient strategy using a variety of investment vehicles to help you address your financial needs and your concerns. Bob Swartz Financial values commitment and transparency.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson here at Iowa State University. Still have my Kansas background here of the beautiful Flint Hills and our DocTalk brand. I don't think it's registered, but I do have a lot of people come up and say, is that Donald Trump? And no. And then people say, is that Dan Thompson? No. And I finally get to, it's DocTalk, and I say, well, what's that? Anyway, I'm glad you all know. Now, I'm here at Iowa State University. I'm the department chair of animal science, and I still work as a consulting veterinarian in my practice, production animal consultation. So thanks for joining us today, and we're going to talk about carcass transfer. So the first thing I want to talk about is what's been going on in the cattle feeding industry. And when we look across the last 30 years, and we look at in weights, and we look at out weights, and we look at days on feed, there have been some trends and some not so trends. So the first thing that you think about or look at are our in weights. And our in weights, as you can see from this graph, that we have gone up and down on our arrival weights at feedlots. And the thing that's most predictive probably of arrival weights would be drought stress conditions, you know, if we have to early wean, but the price of corn. As the price of corn goes up, the more we send cattle to grass. And as the price of corn goes down, the better we can pencil in on feeding lightweight calves from start to finish. So if we have cheap corn, you're going to see lighter in weights. If we have very expensive corn, you're going to see people take those cattle out to grass, to rye pasture, to wheat pasture, do a lot of different things trying to back those cattle up financially prior to shipping them to us at the feedlot. So the price of corn has dictated our in weights. Now, our outweights have consistently increased over the last 30 years. And people would be like, well, what the heck? Why is that? And part of the reason, and the first thing people want to say is, well, those packers, those packers have figured out that they can kill a 1,500-pound animal or a 1,200-pound animal, and they have the same fixed cost in a 1,500-pound animal as they do in a 1,200-pound animal, so they get all that extra product for the same fixed price. But you have to remember they're paying us by the pound, okay? So when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, the reason why we're seeing these increased outweights is because today, more than ever, and if you probably ran a graph, you will see that over the last 30 years, we have had more and more cattle that are sold on a carcass weight basis rather than a live weight basis. So today, reporting feed efficiency is great, but it really doesn't mean a whole lot economically as what carcass feed efficiency or empty body weight gain would be to a cattle feeder. So if in weights have stayed the same and our outweights are increasing and our average daily gain has been maybe a little better but about the same as it always has, the one thing we've also increased are the number of days on feed. And so in weights are fluctuating, but they don't change a lot. Our outweights have gone up. In weights the same, outweights increase. Our days on feed, we now feed cattle 30 to 50 days longer than we used to, which brings a whole nother set of issues that we'll talk about today. Thanks for joining me on DocTalk. We'll be right back after these messages.
At Farm Credit, we partner with America's farmers who work hard each and every day to grow the food that we all enjoy. It's not an easy task, but it's an important one. Farm Credit is proud to work with farmers and ranchers, lending support in rural America.
Hey, welcome to Cattle First, sponsored by Boehringer Ingelheim Vet Medica. There are two reasons why animals get sick: overwhelming dose of a pathogen or a suppressed immune system. Number one cause of a suppressed immune system is stress. We need to make sure that we decrease the stress of cattle. Low stress cattle handling, acclimating these cattle when they come to your facility, making sure that cattle can trust you. So building trust with cattle, just like you would with a dog or a horse on your property, is vitally important, because animals that don't trust you won't show you clinical signs. Once you gain those cattle's trust, all of a sudden one of them says, hey, I'm not feeling good, take me to the hospital and treat me. Otherwise, they think you're a predator and they mask their clinical signs and you don't catch them. This has been Cattle First by Boehringer Ingelheim Vet Medica.
Okay, looks like it's time for our tour. Welcome to the Fort Wallace Museum. Here at the museum, you're going to find some really interesting stuff, like our replica stagecoach from the Butterfield Overland Dispatch. We've got facades from the fort buildings. We've got an 1870s flag. There's a plesiosaur that was discovered locally. We've got the Ray pump organ collection. We're a little bitty place with a great big story, and we'd love to have you.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here at Iowa State University, and we got our studio moved into the Insminger room, which is in Kildee Hall here in Ames, Iowa. And our doors are open. I'm here at work, so if you want to come see us here at Iowa State University, we'd love to have you. When we start to think about this increase in outweight, and it's being driven by people selling and packers buying more animals on the carcass basis and people wanting to sell animals on the carcass basis, what we have to understand is today what we sell as a producer, which I think that when you look at the Texas cattle feeders numbers and South Dakota State's numbers, I believe that 80 to 90% of the cattle out there today are sold on a carcass weight basis, meaning that we sell the animal goes to the packing facility, they take off the hide, the head, the legs, and the offal, and what is left is the carcass. And whatever that carcass weighs after trimming, whether it's trimming for food safety or trimming a bruise out, that's what our pay weight is based on. Now, on the grid and different things like that, if it grades choice or prime and has a better carcass, that's adjusted and you get a premium. If we have dark cutters or things to that nature that decrease the quality of that carcass, it gets deducted. So we have a system here of we weigh the carcass, we look at the attributes of the carcass, that's what we get paid for. It used to be that the packer buyer would come out to the feed yard and make bids on the cattle on a live basis. And that's when they would have x-ray vision as a packer buyer trying to see what that carcass would look like hanging. And they were so good at understanding what a Holstein versus a semi-cross versus Key Angus cross to a Hereford or to different animals that they see on a day-to-day basis. They knew what those animals would do in the cooler. They also kept a history on each one of us as cattle feeders, and so they could adjust saying, well, I know how this person feeds, I know the kind of cattle that are in the pen, I know how many days they've been on feed, so I have a pretty good idea of what they're going to be. So they were doing buying them on a carcass basis mentally, and I love those people, and I would love to walk with them in our pens as some of them would chew a cigar and walk with a cane as they were pointing them out and doing their sorts and that. But today, a lot of the magic is gone, and a lot of these animals, 90% of them, we sell them, they go to the plant, they're slaughtered, we weigh the carcass. We look at the attributes of the carcass, that's what we get paid. So, I know a lot of people that we want increased carcass quality, okay? There's no doubt about it. We want increased quality grade. We want that for the white tablecloth restaurants and steaks. But at the end of the day, we get paid for pounds. And pounds are king. And the king of getting paid for fat cattle are pounds of carcass. And so when we come back, we're going to talk about a term called Carcass Transfer. And it's going to tell you what's going on at the end of that feeding period that is so vital to the feed efficiency and to the payday for you when you sell those cattle. So stay tuned and join us right now after these messages.
No one plans to get sick or injured, but when life happens, it's important you and your family are protected. Kansas Farm Bureau health plans are there to provide continued health care coverage to meet your needs. Choose from a broad range of individual and family plans. And if you're over 65, we have options for you too. Learn more at kfbhealthplans.com or contact a Farm Bureau Financial Services agent near you.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
ValleyVet.com is your one-stop shop for your every animal need. From prescription meds, vaccines, equipment, and more for the ranch to the show ring. Shop ValleyVet.com for fast shipping and great prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Sure Crop Fertilizers was started by my father, Don Sherman, and my mother, Shirley Sherman. Family business that started in the 80s. We predominantly focus on plant nutrients and what we can do to give growers better responses with the fertilizer dollars that they do, and what we can do to make those things work better for the grower. We're based out of Seneca, Kansas. We work with growers in their soil analysis to figure out what they need, and then we can put those in a blend that gives them the best results, and so that we can deliver that direct to their farm so that they have those nutrients where they need them, when they need them, and so that they can apply them in a manner that's very efficient to them and works well in their planting systems and what they're doing. Sure Crop Fertilizers has been around for a long time. We always say we're big enough to take care of everything you need, but we're small enough to do it quickly. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-635-4743. Our website is surecropfertilizers.com, and you can always email me at Corey@surecropfertilizers.com, and with any questions you have, we're glad to answer it and work with you.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson, and we're going to talk about Carcass Transfer. I'm here at Iowa State University. I still teach in the classroom. I'm not going to give that up. The reason why I'm at a university is for these students and to serve our stakeholders and to help our neighbors and serve the land-grant mission. We have a phenomenal faculty here at Iowa State, and I'm humbled to be a part of it. Carcass Transfer. So when we feed these cattle, these fat cattle, when you feed any animal, so it starts out at the beginning of the feeding period, we have a lot of protein and bone accretion rates. So these cattle are still putting on frame. They're still growing taller. And then they get to a point where they hit a physiological puberty, or what happens is that the bones don't grow anymore. We get to the final hip height. We get to the final withers height. We get the final size of the skull of the head and things to that nature. And so as those stop growing, the things that continue to grow are protein and fat, okay? So as the animal grows and the physiological changes occur during the feeding period, up front, the animal's still growing hoof. It's still expanding the size of the head. It's still increasing the size of the liver and the offal and the lungs and the bones at a higher rate than what it is at the end of the feeding period. Makes sense, right? At the end of the feeding period is the most efficient time of that animal putting down carcass. So what we call carcass transfer means during that last 40 to 50 days on feed is the most efficient point in time in which the animal, the fed steer, is laying down carcass weight. 85% of the weight gain during that last 30 to 50 days of the feeding period goes straight to the carcass weight because the head has stopped growing, right? Well, that's not part of the carcass. The feet have stopped growing. That's not part of the carcass. The offal has stopped growing. The skin is not going to expand as much. So all the things that are discarded, but we're still gaining that 3-4 pounds a day, the amount that's going to what will be removed from the carcass slows way down. And at the end of the feeding period, that carcass is starting to churn. And so the reason why we feed these animals to the bigger outweights, the reason why it's so important that we feed them to those final endpoints is to make sure now that we sell these animals on a carcass weight basis, that we're feeding these animals during the most efficient time of their live weight, of their carcass weight growth. Now this is different than live weight, okay? If you're selling animals on a live basis, you need to sell them 30 to 50 days sooner. And the reason is because now you're selling an animal for $1.10 a pound live on the hoof. At the beginning of the feeding period, you don't care what the growth rate is or what makes up that composition of that growth. You just want feed to gain. You want lower feed to gain. So I want the least amount of feed to the most amount of live weight gain. So feed efficiency, if you're selling them live, is a very important economic tool. However, if I'm selling them on a carcass weight basis, the most efficient time for carcass growth and carcass feed efficiency is the end of the feeding period. The most efficient point in time of the calf's life for live weight feed efficiency or selling them live is at the beginning of the feeding period. It's confusing, but we'll finalize when we come back.
We got CME, and then my husband died, and she was everything for Kira. That's why she's more than a horse to us, and why it was so important that we try and do everything we can to get her healed.
There's plate-rich fibrin's been out there a long time, but the way we've designed and patented it is completely different. There's nothing like it on the market, and because we're able to develop ourselves, we can now offer it to veterinarians for a really reasonable price. Not only do we conceive, develop, and patent our own products, but all our products is backed 100% by science. We usually, almost in every case, have taken them to Kansas State University, and they do our trials for us. They do our science behind it, because we want you to know that it's just not another product. We're in this for the long run.
The difference that I saw in that horse from 45 days ago, the depressed look, the dull hair coat, I mean, that horse was walking on eggs. That mother and daughter thought that it might be the last time they see that mare. 45 days later, the hair coat, the attitude of the horse, the set of the ears, the unimpeded gait, and the actual look and the heel even shocks me. And I had a lot of confidence that it would work.
Everything that they've done, all of the people who have been a part of this situation, I cannot thank enough. And I'm so grateful.
It has been a very long journey. I just wanted her to be able to be a horse again, and to be able to even ride her anymore is just amazing.
To watch Kira ride that horse, I have to tell you, anything about business or politics or universities or our company, it goes out the window. I mean, we gave that girl her friend back, and we did it because we know what regenerative medicine can do. If you'll use it and just get out of its way and let it do what it does.
Highways 40, 83, and I-70 come together right here in Oakley. Roads that lead to businesses, to magnificent rock formations, to scenic vistas, to places where legends were made. Roads that lead us home. Discover Oakley, the gateway to western Kansas.
ValleyVet.com is your one-stop shop for your every animal need. From prescription meds, vaccines, equipment, and more for the ranch to the show ring. Shop ValleyVet.com for fast shipping and great prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson, and we're here at Iowa State University. We're going to talk just a little bit. Let me just back up. So if we sell cattle on a live weight basis, that means someone gives me a bid for cattle per pound, 94 cents a pound for that fat steer. And we're going to weigh that steer live, and that's our pay weight. Okay, maybe minus a pencil shrink, something like that. If I sell it on a carcass basis, that animal goes to slaughter. We know what the carcass price is. The animal, we slaughter it, we remove the offal, the head, the feet, the tail, the hide. We weigh the carcass, that's what we get paid on. Okay? So when we talk about feed efficiency of being 5 or 6, so 6 pounds of feed for per pound of gain, that is a live weight feed efficiency. So the time in which cattle are most efficient is when they're the lightest or when they're the smallest, because that is where it takes the least amount of feed per pound of gain. They're most energetically efficient at that point in time of their life. If we're selling it on a carcass basis, the carcass feed efficiency or the empty body weight gain feed efficiency, the animal is most efficient at the end of the feeding period because we're not laying down bone as much. We're not laying down more offal, the skin, the head, different things like that stop growing. And now everything that we're feeding that animal, 85% of the growth at the end of the feeding period is going to carcass and carcass weight. So if we sell them on a carcass basis, we have to feed them 30 to 50 days longer than we do on a live weight basis. This also, if we're feeding these animals 30 to 50 days longer, it makes it vitally important that we get those animals to the right endpoint. So, because we don't want to sell them too green to where we decrease the efficiency of that carcass being laid down. That is what's leading us to these larger outweights, to these longer days on feed. So as we have these longer days on feed in our feedlots, 30 to 50 days, it also then understands that the grilling season is in the summer. So we have an increase in bigger cattle, heavier cattle, larger carcass basis or larger yielding cattle here during the hottest time of the year with the most potential for heat stress, the most potential for fatigue cattle syndrome. And so we have to be it's vitally important that we make sure that we as producers take things an advantage to decrease heat stress in our cattle, whether it's shade, whether it's sprinklers, increasing water tank space, making sure that we have proper cattle handling to prevent fatigue cattle syndrome in these bigger cattle. And the last thing is to make sure that we're going to make sure that we have our gait set right and different things so that as these cattle grow taller and are bigger, that we aren't getting more bruising. So there's a reason why we need to feed them bigger, because it puts more money in our pocket to sell a heavier carcass. Carcass pounds are king, and we need to make sure that we take care of the health of these animals and maximize the performances last 30 days. Thanks for watching DocTalk. Remember to always work with your local nutritionist or your local veterinarian. And if you want to know more about what we do on DocTalk, you can find us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson here in Ames, Iowa at Iowa State University, and I'll see you down the road.
DocTalk is brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals. Watch Ag AM in Kansas online at agaminkansas.com.
Welcome to the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center, right here in my hometown of Oakley, Kansas. We're the front door of Western Kansas, located on 3 main highways, I-70, US 83, and US 40. And all those roads lead to history, beautiful scenery, and adventure, no matter which direction you go. We now have an IHOP. That brand that you've trusted up and down the road in all your travels is staffed with local folks, real people, just like you and me, and we're waiting on you to join us. So for fun, adventure, fuel up, fuel your body, and let's have some fun.
KFRM is one of the largest farm radio stations in the nation, dedicated to informing and entertaining rural listeners from northern Oklahoma to southwestern Nebraska. You can catch KFRM in many ways, of course, 550 on the AM dial, streaming at kfrm.com, or on your smartphone by going to the TuneIn Radio app, or on Ag AM in Kansas on Tuesdays and Facebook every day of the week. KFRM, tune us in. You'll be glad you did.
No one plans to get sick or injured. But when life happens, it's important you and your family are protected. Kansas Farm Bureau health plans are there to provide continued health care coverage to meet your needs. Choose from a broad range of individual and family plans. And if you're over 65, we have options for you too. Learn more at kfbhealthplans.com or contact a Farm Bureau Financial Services agent near you.